Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so I would like to call to order the Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Education. But I could have Secretary Eddie call the roll.
Bookler,
Here.
Zach,
Present.
Eddie present, Johnson.
Here.
Kitziger.
Here.
Notini. Here. Chesney.
Here. All right, next, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next, comments and suggestions from the public. Anybody wish to comment tonight? Okay. If not, we can move on to our first presentation, the Education Foundation.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Is your mic on?
I don't know.
It should be green.
It is green.
Here.
Oh, now it's green.
Now it's green.
My name is Rose Kelly. I am the president of the District 59 Education Foundation.
And I'm Karen Osmansky, the current treasurer of the Education Foundation.
We are happy to be here tonight to highlight the work that the District 59 Education Foundation, our goal is to share our major programs and events, providing you a look into the organization and the passion behind our work.
You know, as an independent nonprofit organization, the foundation really relies upon grants and donations to fund our annual budget. In the past years, we have had many donations from current staff. Our retired staff are very generous to the foundation and community members throughout our 5 communities. But we do want to share that we had one major donor over the past 3 years who we would now like to name and recognize. And this is Mr. Ron Levine, who for the past 3 years have really funded the majority of our work on the foundation. Ron is a retired District 59 teacher, for those of you who do not know him, and he served all of his full service in Friendship School. So we are very, very grateful to Ron, and he continues to support us to this day. Yes, thank you. So these donors obviously have made it possible for us to support district programs, our grants, student scholarships. And one of the things that we are priding ourselves on is over the years, we have tried very hard to build relationships with other organizations in our communities. And hopefully that's one of the messages you'll hear today, is how we couldn't do this by ourselves. Obviously, District 59 is our biggest partnership, but we have many other organizations that we partnership with to do our work. So listen for that.
Ding. We also have staff recognition. Families can support and recognize teachers or staff members at any of our schools by making a donation to the foundation on our website, CCSD59 Education Foundation, which is attached to the district's website. A parent will receive a certificate in the staff member's name who has made a difference in the classroom, in their school, or in their community. Ding. Our teacher grants. This is huge. District 59 Education Foundation major grants are our teacher grants. From November to March, staff have the opportunity to request funds for items to enhance the quality of education in their classroom as well as the whole school. Many of these innovative programs help to engage students into critical thinking. Grants are first reviewed by the SLT team before being presented to the Education Foundation directors. There is a rubric that each teacher must adhere to, and these are evaluated against before our directors approve or deny the funding of them. To date, this school year, the foundation has awarded $5,200 to staff grants.
And we just want to share a little bit about the background of the art wall that's in our vestibule here. We've been talking about this for many years at the foundation, and finally, I think it was last year, was our first year, or 2 years? Jane, thank you. We purchased the frames and designed a process where hopefully it would be easy for the staff, our art teachers, to send us photos or pictures that the kids had drawn. And yeah, isn't that great? And he didn't know we did it, so he told us we were going to be in trouble later. So where each semester our teachers from all of our schools send us 2 pieces of work over the year that's creative. We take the responsibility now for switching out those, and also send every parent whose student is recognized on the art wall, we send them a letter notifying them of that and encourage them to come to the ad building, stand by their child's picture and take a picture. And obviously it's on our website as well.
Dean? Scholarships. This is huge, and I don't see Ann here. 2 years ago, we began our Education Foundation Scholarship Program. We give out 3 $1,000 academic scholarships, 1 at each of our 3 feeder high schools, Elk Grove, Prospect, and Rolling Meadows, to students who have attended 3 years or more in a District 59 school. Each student is required to write an essay responding to these questions. Did you attend 59 schools for at least 3 years? How did your experience in District 59 make an impact on your education to help you shape your future? Describe a challenge or adversity that you faced as a student and how you overcame it. District 59 Foundation values service to the community. Tell us about a time when you provided service to your school or community. And then last year, we added another scholarship program, a trade scholarship. Also $1,000, 1 to each of the 3 schools. Their questions and their essays are a little bit different. Did you attend 59 schools for at least 3 years, and which one? What hands-on career do you intend on pursuing? Upload a photo or a project and your hands-on experience and what you have done. Briefly describe the project you uploaded and why it's important to you. We continue to work with District 214 on these scholarships, and we're excited to once again bring the students that are chosen to the next board meeting in May.
So another partnership, District 214, should keep count. I'd like to share a little bit about the backpack drive that all of our students benefit from. And I have been involved in this for probably 10 years because I'm also a member of the Community Character Coalition of Elk Grove. And I'm the chair of that backpack committee. And Ashley liaison here at the ad building. So between the 2 of us, we try to get the work done and get the messages out and collect as many backpacks as possible. Backpacks are distributed to 2 districts now, all of District 59. And several years ago, we were able to branch ourselves onto the Elk Grove side of 53 to District 54. So we do provide backpacks for 3 of the 4 schools that are in Elk Grove in District 54. So now 54 has become another partner with the coalition in particular, but obviously it benefits our work here in District 59. As the needs of the students in our communities increase, so does the need for us as a foundation to put out more funds. So year, our budget has increased for the backpack drive, and we do that. And 5, our community-wide backpack drive, which we had collection bins throughout the village. We're going to look to hopefully get some in other places this year, but we collected 1,942 backpacks. And in District 59, they were distributed at our back to school event, in the summer, and that wasn't enough. But we were happy. And the schools in District 54, we give the backpacks to the principals at the schools, and they take care of however they are going to distribute them. So it's a little different process. The coalition's collection 26, now this is a drum roll activity, collect 2026 backpacks. It's a slight, maybe it would be a catchy phrase advertising, and we certainly hope that we collect many more than that because our kids are the benefactors of those backpacks. So thank you if you have donated. I'd next like to talk a little bit about the Empowerment Fund, and I know Ashley Robinson is not here tonight, but she is once again the major liaison into the Education Foundation support Empowerment Fund. And we make this because we really support that the district is looking to support ordinary needs of our children and our families. Examples include, over the years, we have purchased eyeglasses for second grade students. We've bought tires for cars so that dad could get to work, and paying for a short-term stay in a motel if the family has been evicted or there has been some type of loss of their home. So the needs are diverse and our responses need to be diverse, and we kind of pride ourselves on that. I don't know how much you know about how the fund works, but the of 2 district leaders and 2 community members, which I am one of, who help the community outreach specialists evaluate the needs of families as the community outreach specialists work with these families. And if they determine that the needs are really unordinary, then the people on this team, we get all the information. We get the information about what's going on in the family, how many family members there are, what kinds of resources the community outreach specialists have tried to provide the families with. So it's multi-leveled, the kind of support. And then our team of 4 take the vote. Are we going to support this as an unordinary need, or is there another avenue that we need to go with this family? A partnership arose during this process when the foundation began funding mattresses and pillows for District 59 families in need through donations made to an organization called Mi Casa a Su Casa. And one of the co-workers at Mi Casa a Su Casa, Shauna McPherson, is here today, and we appreciate her partnership. And I had the pleasure of serving on the school board with Shauna for a short period of time. So it was our go home week. So that was nice. Funding for these purchases are run through the district's empowerment fund. And Mi Casa a Su Casa supports families not only in District 59, but in the communities of Mount Prospect, Des Plaines, and Elk Grove outside of the district.
With that being said, we're grateful for the foundation directors, past and present. Most of the current foundation members are retired staff. Rose Kelly, Marlene Pazdo, who is not here, Jane Wilkins, Ann Spangler, who is not here, Karen Osmansky, and Sharon Lansdowne, who is not here. Additionally, I forgot somebody. Janet Weglars. She comes in later. Additionally, Karen Osmansky volunteered 6 years as a Board of Education member. We also have a past PTO member, Jen Randolph, who has volunteered her time serving both the school and now the district. These years of service that we continue to increase as Janet Weglars is still a current District 59 staff member. These names represent many years of service to our school and the communities. And drum roll, without Sharon Lansdowne's years, that's 163 years of service and volunteerism to District 59 community. We're honored and excited on our mission to continue to support District 59 to be remaining a great place to learn. And a big thank you to Foundation Director Jane Wilkins for all of her work on our slide presentation with smiling faces to tell our story better than the words. We would also like to thank Ben Gray for being our liaison, attending monthly meetings and all the work he does behind the scenes of the foundation. Beep. Thank you, Sarah, for being our board. We recognize the many hours that you put in for volunteering in the district. Ashley Robinson, who is not here, is our community outreach liaison. And Dr. Bresnahan, thank you for meeting with us annually to share the district priorities, which helps the foundation align our resources to the needs of our community. So it's your kids, my kids, our kids, all kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask a few questions?
Just raise your hand.
Not done.
I did it else, I kind of like, wait, go ahead. Yes.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for all the amazing things you're doing, more and more every year, it seems like. And I'll never forget when I was a PTO member at Robert Frost. You gave us our first, show of support for our weekend backpack program. I'll never forget that. We came and pitched it to you guys, and you loved the idea, and you helped get us off the ground. I'll never forget that. I also thank you for letting us know about Mr. Levine. He taught both of my kids at Friendship and did an amazing job for them. So just glad to hear that he's supporting you all. And one other question I have, are you looking for volunteers and or board members? There's plenty of community members that I know that would love to join, an organization like yours. So is the answer yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we get in touch?
You can go on the website,
yeah.
or you can, give a call to the Ed Building. Maribel has our contact. We meet once a month here at the Ed Building,
Okay,
and we do all of our organization.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're always looking
Yeah.
for more
Okay.
people.
And that would include myself as well. I'd love to help out. And I just know there's a lot of, former District 59 parents who I think would be interested as well.
I think the more diversity we get, the better we're going to get at, addressing all the needs that are out there. So more people is good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have anything, or feel free to email us or ask Sarah. Sarah hears our conversation every month. So,
Even when we're online doing it, like last month.
but we just felt it was important so that you could put names to faces and to, as Rose said at the beginning, to not only hear the things that we're doing, but to feel our passion. Because, in retirement, my mantra is I only do what I'm passionate about. And this is one example of how we really are following our passions.
Let me tell you, she is passionate. She was my kids' principal. I have never seen anyone so passionate about kids as Karen. Yes, yes.
Still am.
Yeah, thank you. This
You're
is
welcome.
great. So you guys worked for a number of years, many of you for the district, and
Yep.
you care so deeply about it that you continue to volunteer. So thank you. Excellent
Yeah, I'm
presentation.
sitting in tonight for Dr. Bresnan.
Yes.
She's out at a national conference, and I tried to do the math. I had 185 years.
Well, I
so,
didn't have Sharon's because
um,
she's somewhere in Hawaii.
always in Hawaii. But it is interesting. This foundation has really been driven by former District 59 staff members and now current District 59 staff members. And we do appreciate the efforts and the work because it drives so much in so many different ways. And I was happy to hear Mr. Levine was finally willing to let his name, many people guessed it was him, but that he let his name finally become public.
But yeah, he's a very humble man, as those of you who know him know. But when we met at the end of this year as treasurer, he always meets with me. And he's thrilled with what the foundation is doing, because I always share our budget and how we're targeting monies for what we're passionate about and what are the needs of the district, and he supports those. So it's a joy to be working with him. And Tom, just so that we did share our presentation with Dr. Bresnahan because she had told us that she wasn't going to be here. We wanted her to know what we were going to say. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to
Thank
ask
you.
any
Yeah,
questions.
and maybe this presentation will get the word out to the rest of the community of who we are, because a lot of people don't know who or what a foundation is. Yeah, good. Thank you, guys.
Thank
And
you.
for what you do.
Okay, next up, we have our winter benchmark report.
All right, well, good evening. It's time for our annual winter, second out of 3 times a year when we come in and report out. I want to take a second. I see Corey King, our coordinator of data and assessments, in the crowd. So he is a huge driver in pulling this data together and putting things together. So I often say his name, but that's Corey King. Corey, stand up so we can see you. Often as people turn to Corey and ask for data, and he pulls it together really quickly. So going to jump right in and go through some of the presentation slides and go from there. So here we go. So really, as we talk about these data pieces, we're talking about our connecting to our strategic plan goal 1, student growth and achievement, and really that KPI of the 80% of our goals for 80% of our students to be at that 25th percentile or higher. Really purpose around that is if we believe, and really research says, if our kids are above that piece, we can really within our classrooms address most of those needs. And then kids under that 25th percentile, we're able to then intervene and support kids outside of the classroom. So let's talk about reading. Oh boy. There it is. So this is where we're at with reading. We dropped a little bit from where we started the year. We've seen that in the past. It's been interesting. The district MTSS team has spent a lot of time talking about reading since we completed the winter benchmark and, you know, really just trying to figure out what happened. We're seeing a lot of, I guess, variance across grade levels in schools that we haven't seen, and trying to figure that out. It's we always look at data.
Tom,
and
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when
Please.
you talk about MTSS,
Yes.
not everyone is aware of that. Like those of us who,
yeah,
the
so
people who
our
aren't educated,
Katie, help me just so I get it right.
multi-tiered system of support.
Oh, you answered it for us. Thank you so much. So that's really our system as we look at kids of where they fall and supporting kids and trying to move them along if they're not falling into that above the 25th percentile. We've got a pretty strong established system that we've put in the last 5 years, and really it gives us a chance to intervene when kids aren't where they need to be. But thanks for asking the question. So we've been really looking at that over this past month or 6 weeks. This is kind of the visual representation of that. We're at, started the year at 72.9, now we're at 72.3. So a slight drop, not a lot. But again, we're, you know, trying to figure out that piece and why that happened.
Tom, could you expand on that at all, or anyone else, about what you're looking at, what you're doing?
So that piece, and actually I have some, you know, we really spent a lot of time, and we'll have some a slide a little later on, but trying to figure out what that piece is. There's a lot of ideas. One, we've implemented some new things in reading this year. We really have a strong focus on writing. So some of the assumptions are, is it an implementation dip connected to writing, and that our focus is away from some of our standard reading pieces? We've got a strong focus on vocabulary. Is that pulling away from some of our standard pieces? Some assumptions are we overwhelming our system? One thing we do a lot of things. So are we overwhelming our system with so much that doing lots of stuff might pull away from our focus? Some of it is capacity. Do we just have too much going on? Is it, you know, every year we have a turnover of a large number of kids. Is that just a new group of kids? In reading, we also know that we are a 45% EL population. Is that an impact on our reading?
And how
piece?
are we evaluating all of that then, like bringing that all together and deciding what we need to focus on?
So, well, this is the data we use, that big picture data, to do that. And then we'll dig deeper into whether it's program data, grade level data, and dig into those pieces. And, you know, it's not something that we're going to now change direction and stop doing writing or stop doing vocabulary on the fly, and it's a short kind of window of time. So we'll see where we end up at the end of the school year. Because things can change. And I always have to remind myself and our system, on average, this is a 60-minute test. We've also had some discussions about even just our planning and preparation for the test. We've done iReady now for 4 and 5 years. It's kind of just part of what we do. Are we as active in our preparation and readiness to take that test versus, hey, let's get it done and move on and get back to instruction? There's some assumptions that maybe we're not as serious as maybe we've been in the past. I'm not saying that's accurate, but when we look and say, wow, last year that average kid took 70 minutes and this year they took 45, that's an interesting question. So those are some things too. And it is a one-day, one-time kind of test that is an important test and we take very seriously, but sometimes kids, there's no grade. There's no things that go with this. So it's another piece of the puzzle that we're having discussions about. But great question.
Is the assessment, is that the diagnostic?
The
Yeah,
diagnostic,
okay.
they're actually changing the name to that because diagnostic has some different ring to it, like more of like a special ed assessment. So they're changing some pieces to that. My colleagues, any additions to add?
No, these are all the things that we've been discussing at length the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks at least. The only other thing I would add is that we have looked immediately at certain areas. It could be a grade here, it could be a classroom at one building, and immediately joined that team, that teacher, that principal, and created some adjustments that we think could maybe help for the rest of the year. So there's little things here and there that we are adjusting based on some data that we've seen that looks a little different in some areas. So we look at it, act on it, but then try to make these suggestions. Oh, one other piece that I will talk to a little bit if we get to that slide we can look
You've
at
got a slide.
is that we scaffold tremendously. And I'll allude to how come that came to be with all of our new curricular resources. But one thing we're talking about now is how do we release some of that teacher support so that we have more independent practice with students. Ability for students to have those strategies that they use on their own. And teachers are realizing this through their PLCs. We're seeing this as a need. And I can talk to that a little bit because it kind of matches some of the other strategies that we're working on.
Just to clarify, I think you answered this question, but you do deep dive kind of then classroom level. Like,
so schools do analysis of their own data and teachers do analysis of their own data. We get down to that level, down to the kid level for those pieces. But again, this is bigger picture data. But yes, we go down through that piece. It's a pretty well-established system here in the district.
just making sure that all of our staff is feeling like supported, just in case they feel
even actually
somewhere.
this year we had a great at the Institute Day. We brought in iReady to actually go through a review with all of our new teachers because it's new to them. So they had a chance to go through an analysis and dig into their own classroom data with a iReady expert. So this is the kind of breakdown by grade level and then all of our different programs. So you know how I hate this thing. So the never and former ELs, the ESL, the dual language Spanish, dual language Polish, and then the never EL dual language students. And you can see how that breaks down. As we often talk about when we talk about the never EL piece, we're really at the KPI across the board at all grade levels. When we talk about ESL and dual language Spanish, we're not there yet. You could see kind of that variance. You see a +7, you see a -4. Kindergarten, we're implementing a new kindergarten structure. We see a +12 for ESL, really no growth, a -15, a -9. Again, this is kindergarten, so we see some big swings. That's not like this huge concern that, oh my gosh, kindergarten at Claremont in the dual Polish program is failing. It's not. We see those types of swings and kindergarten, think about kindergarten assessments, kindergarten students sitting at a computer taking an assessment. Those are things we all factor in. So we see some pluses, we see some minuses. Again, we'll want to see where we end up at the conclusion of the school year. But we see a lot of our classrooms are above that KPI, and then we're seeing a lot of growth, and in some areas, not so much.
Fifth grade, I see quite a few minuses in fifth grade.
So yes, except for really at the end, but across the board, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So those are things we'll look at. Do we see that across the board? And then we'll factor that in when we look at achievement too. So sometimes the KPI might not see the growth, but the achievement might look really solid. So when we talk about math, we continue to see positives across the board. We're in year 5 with math. So not a huge increase, but again, another nice positive increase with math. The KPI of 0.8, really, we're just about there as a system, you know, at that 80%. When we look at the different growth areas, lots of positives, again, lots of meeting that KPI at the different groups and different levels. Again, you see some of those a +8, a -7. Again, that's a piece that's been very interesting to us to see. That's been unique from the past, but the different groups are growing pretty much as they have in the past, and not a lot of like major concerns. Again, math has really been solid across the years and in a way that we just feel lots of satisfaction, just keep kind of cruising along with math.
Can I ask just in general real quick, is the fall assessment basically the spring assessment, or is there
So the assessment really is designed for like that period of the year of, so at the start of the year, where would I be as a first grader? And really the idea as a start of the year first grader. By the end of the year, where should I be as an end of year first grader? That's how the assessment
and
is
so like
designed.
winter would be like the first testing of learning
Of like middle of the year. If I'm on grade level, I'm like middle of a first grader. I would be on grade
so
level.
fall's
in a
like
sense.
basically retention from the previous year. Winter
Exactly.
is like the first test of what you're learning this year.
So if you're in, let's say at the start of the year, if you're below grade level, they call it, you're basically where you should be because you haven't started that grade level yet.
Okay.
So question, when was the winter assessment conducted?
December.
December.
So basically the couple weeks before winter break. And then the Spanish after we come back, and then makeups in January.
And basically the spring one is already starting, right?
No, spring not until May. State testing's coming up. The
Okay, so
state assessment is coming
the
up
one that is earlier than usual.
March and April. So then when we talk reading, we kind of switched from the KPI, and then we talk about trying to compare. We want to look like the nation when we talk about achievement. So this is reading. Now we're in the winter. You can see we, you know, a little bit sort of behind with Illinois, just behind with the nation. We want to, when we look down at the 2 and 3, we're again a little bit behind. From my perspective, being a high EL population, that is pretty common, I would say. I can't prove that piece, but when you know, the data that's out there that says the nation's between 10 and 20% EL and we're 45, that you can likely expect that piece. But we're catching up. We're right about there. This is that graph that kind of represents that over time. We've kind of improved every single year, again, moving up that ladder. This is the 2 and 3 below, how we compare when we look at, you know, some nice decreases. We're right in alignment with the nation. You know, and I kind of pound on that piece just because now, do we want kids to be below grade level? Absolutely not. But the reality is, the way the assessment's designed, kids are going to fall below grade level. It's a reality of the process. We don't want any kids below grade level, but we certainly don't want to be out of whack with the nation. Yes, from where we started, we've had some really nice changes. That's a great point. Appreciate that. So then this is the piece I really like to look at. So we have that opportunity. This is the only piece of comparative data iReady has for us. We wish we had more, but we can look at how our grade levels compare to the nation. So I really just, when we talk about this, look at the bookends. So where do we compare in those grade levels? And for us, we're pretty close when we look at those early grades. So this is like mid and on grade level in the winter. So basically we're where we're supposed to be at the mid-year. So you could see, especially in those early grades, big jumps, 5% in the fall. Now it's 25%. right kind of in alignment with where the nation is. For us, what gets very interesting and really shows how our system works, by the time we get to the middle school, we catch up and get to basically the same place of where the nation is, and sometimes even a little bit better. Where really, for me, and I think for our system, where we get some comfort that our system's really working is where we start to see that 3, 2, and 3 years below, where all of a sudden, when you look at 7th and 8th grade, where all of a sudden for the winter, the nation in 7th grade's at 34%, for us, we're at 29. For 8th grade, the nation's at 36%, we're at 31. And we start to reduce those numbers at a higher rate than the nation. So we're getting in line with the nation on the top end, that green end, and we're reducing at a higher rate on the 2 and 3 years below. So that system over time, we find if our kids are here and they stay here, we're going to get you on that path. And then I was working with Corey actually today because I had to remind myself in this area, kids 2 and 3 years below, about a fourth of those kids have IEPs, which means they have a guaranteed intervention, a support, legal document that they're going to get support. And most of those kids are getting, almost all of those kids are getting an intervention. So that's another big piece that we want to make sure is happening.
Do we have data on a comparison of the previous chart with more historical to see how if those deltas between us and the state over time,
I could go back and look at that because we've had this for a couple of years to look at what it looks like from a few years ago. We can definitely look at that and pull that together. And actually, we've had
interesting comparison, right?
We've had some requests to show like last year's data and different things like that. So then this is a slide we've had for a few years of looking at our EL programming and what that looks like, and it looks pretty different. You can see how different it looks for our kids who are EL learners in regards to that green and the red, and especially long-term ELs at the middle school level. And then actually trying to show what did that look like last year. So some of it looks very similar, some a little. You could see a big jump with newcomers. Last year was 38%. This year it's 29%. We've actually implemented a lot of things for newcomers at the middle school level the last few years. So those different pieces to try to look at what does that look like over time.
Tom, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory? When we talk about the denied services,
Yes.
does that mean denied the dual language or denied all EL?
Denied all EL services. So a student qualifies for EL services. A parent decided, I do not want any services. So the student does not receive EL services at all. You can see the number is really small for us, but they do not receive those services.
Okay, and just going to, to the ESL junior high students, 3 or more years behind.
Yes.
Is there any updates on what we are doing to support those students?
Yes, we're gonna 2 more slides and we're gonna jump right into that.
Okay.
And then Tom, for the kids that have accommodations written into their plan, do they get those for the iReady on this?
Yes, so
Okay,
any accommodation
Okay.
built into a plan that becomes part of this type of testing also.
Okay.
Yep, great question. This slide also was a requested addition. So this is schools last year's winter to this year's winter. So as you look through, about half of our schools saw an increase, half decrease, or about the same on those bookends. So some of the bigger changes we see, probably the biggest change, and I don't want to call out Frost, but Frost saw a little bigger increase. But from an organizational view, the biggest change for Frost is, as you may recall, we've been funneling all dual language Spanish kids to Frost these last few years from Brentwood and Devonshire. So change in their enrollment and programming structure there each and every year.
I'm sorry, I don't see the slide in our thing. Oh, it's not. Oh. This slide isn't in our.
It's not, that one's
No.
not there. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's one of the ones I separately asked for.
That's okay.
But
But it
Yeah.
would be good to get because
Yeah.
it's
Maybe it just didn't update or something.
like,
If
it
you
would
Got it.
send
So
us-
yeah, there's some
Really
requests
sit
came
through it.
through for
Yeah.
some additional slides. You brought it So
No, completely understandable. We appreciate you putting it together. It's just that
we'll,
this is a
include
good
the
start.
final and updated in the Friday update to make sure everyone
it's all
has
good.
everything completely.
I just want to make sure to spend a little bit of time on it because I mean we have colors of green, but then it's also like trying to get the trend out of it in a just 1 minute of overview. It's impossible. So
Absolutely, totally understand. And this will go out in the board update to the entire community.
thank you.
So then, based on some questions we received, we put together this very intense font 8 table related to some questions of like, what are we doing in relation to, especially related to reading, but math is here too, structures and strategies to improve our system. And then we even did one specific to the below grade level piece. So I know Susan and Katie might jump in, but I'm going to take a shot at it. So kind of going back in time, where we got the core instruction piece. So we added a core math instruction. We added Avid, we adjusted schedules, we added minutes for instruction. At the same time, supplementally, we had this iReady pathway piece. That's the piece where kids take the diagnostic. They get some instruction based on what they need to work on. They practice, they work on that. We added a math win block, and we added coaching support directly related to instruction. Then we really focused in on this intervention package where we added a junior high win structure. We bought intervention programs and materials related to reading and math, and we enhanced our MTSS system so that we could get more supports directly to kids. That was rolled out 2, 5, 4, and 3 years ago. So we've got that in place over time. Then we looked to the literacy curriculum. Then we looked at implementing grade level texts. Then we got some foundation. We realized, man, we need to work on phonemic awareness, phonics, and language. So we bought some things, and please jump in. Worked on some training related to that because we were missing that. So we built on that. We had a language and grammar focus. Then we worked on these foundational literacy and writing courses for teachers. Work on the training. Continue to do the reading pathways. Varsity tutors come up. Here's a chance for some additional pieces outside of school. Then we worked on small group literacy instruction. Then we said, oh my gosh, we have these kids, newcomers, ESL kids, second language learners. We need more ESL teachers in school taking kids out of instruction to give them some additional support. Then I need a bigger box. We saw we need some more additional time for intervention. So we actually said some kids at junior high need more intervention, so we're going to take away an elective. Now, we don't like doing that, but reading and math are more important sometimes than an elective. And we expanded, through support of the board, our interventionist teams. And we even got to the point of saying, instead of doing reading and math, we're going to get a reading specialist, we're going to get a math specialist. Then we changed how we allocated. You might recall, we used to do, every school gets one math, every school gets one reading. Instead, it was, this school might have 3, this school might have 1, this school might have 5. And we built a system to evaluate this, which we'll get to a slide later where we actually can show you growth over time. And then we found some Spanish level programs to actually put into play. And then this year, we've implemented a framework related to levels of ESL and ELA based. I'm sorry, Susan.
Yeah,
help
here,
me.
I'll
I'm going to
jump-
stop.
Yeah, you're doing
I need a breath.
you're doing a great job.
I
You're
need
doing
a
a great
breath.
job.
Go ahead, Susan.
But this
Take
is-
over.
This is actually a key piece that you will see when you look at the results from our benchmarking and the work that we are doing to reduce the number of students below grade level. And we look at our long-term ELs in the district and note that those students in those grades have not had the benefit of all of these components that we've had for the number of years when they were in those early grades. So we have been really proactive at those junior high levels. And the one area has been with our EL students. So looking at all of our levels of language proficiency, we created levels of ESL support that we didn't have prior to this school year. We had ESL teachers and we had classes, but then we had the core with perhaps tuition required for the teacher within that class. And so now we have multiple levels built out
with curricular resources, and it increases in rigor closest to our core by the time they get to that, what we call level 3, which is a co-taught ELA class. And so that has been a big shift this year. We had co-teaching training this year. So when we look at all of these changes, think about our K-5 classroom teachers and our junior high English language arts teachers. They have really been at the intersection of all of these adjustments. So they've done an amazing job. We've done the co-teaching. It's going well. And what's nice about this framework that we have put in place is that we can adapt it based on the number of students we have annually. So we look at our newcomer numbers, we look at our EL numbers, and we're having a meeting actually like this week, next week, to start predicting how many sections are we going to need of all those levels, because it is a lot to manage and schedule for. But it is making a big difference because they're getting what they need and they're getting that extra support, particularly in that level 3 class, which is the core resource, but with more support. So they're getting access to the grade level rigor, but more scaffolding in addition to seminar, intervention, et cetera.
So just to clarify, just the core ELA class, let's say for a former EL 3 or more years behind, they would be getting that.
Some of them may be getting that if their language proficiency is within that like 3.0 range, and many of them are. So many of our students that are falling multiple years below grade level also are falling in that range, and they're struggling to get out of that range of language proficiency. So really focusing on that language development as well as reading and literacy. We also added an assessment this year at the junior high called Summit. So it's a language proficiency assessment so that our teachers can see every 6 weeks exactly where their students are with language and target those specific skills. So we're not using access tests once a year. And I mean, teachers can tell. They know how their students are progressing, but this gives them an actual data point. There's also a pathway. They're using it in seminar. So we're very curious to see, so far it's going well, but how that impacts it over the course of the entire year.
Thank you.
Is there anything within varsity tutors that would help with like some of that language acquisition? I don't know if there's language acquisition varsity tutors. I do know that they've been rolling out some more tutorial AI type features, but I don't know about language acquisition particularly. I don't think so, to my knowledge. Okay. But Summit is quite robust. It has more than we need, but we are using it in really creative ways right now.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Susan, for your work and getting all this together, all these supports, because I know it was something that definitely needed to be done. So thank you.
Just ask for some clarification. Tom, you had mentioned several times that we were missing things. We were missing phonemic awareness or whatever. Are you saying missing like back from the previous administration, like where we had learning experiences? Are you saying like we've now established new curriculum, but we're still missing some things?
I think we recognized we needed a stronger, more in-depth focus on phonemic awareness. So we found a program to really dig deep into that piece. Is that a fair way?
With our former Lucy Calkins program, there was a phonics component that we used. And then before we actually adopted our new literacy, we had a phonics like supplemental that we utilized immediately before we adopted HMH and Benchmark. But with our 2 new resources, it has a very robust, what we call structured literacy program. And we also have an Ames pathway course that many of our teachers have been taking, which is really evidence-based reading called the Science of Reading Instruction that many of our teachers have gone through. And we are also using those skills and strategies during all of our professional learning. So that heavy emphasis on those foundational structured literacy skills and explicit as well as a very linear approach to how it is taught has been the last 2.5 years. So 2023 was the first year. So when I talk about those K-5 teachers, it's been, and for literacy, it incorporates that reading, vocabulary, writing, language, grammar. And so it's been a layering of our implementation. And so there's a lot that they have been learning over the last 2.5 years. And I feel like they're doing very well, but they're probably still getting used to all of those components of literacy. And this is our 3rd year of our formal implementation plan.
Do you want me to finish that, Colin? So kind of continuing down so a lot, I talked about the vocabulary strategies, focus on writing. You got the varsity tutors piece. The big push this year was fact fluency resource, co-teaching piece. What I think is so important with a lot of our work, PLC work, co-teaching work, we actually bring in outside experts to do the training. Again, we have resources that we can do that. So we can bring in experts to do that real piece of training. And again, we look to some new resources for reading intervention. So now to get to Ms. Notini's question about those below grade level pieces. So when we have kids 2 and 3+ years below 1, if they have an IEP, we build in, they have that intensive instruction based on what they need in their IEP. It's built into their schedule. It's required. It's part of what happens. The minutes are there. It's built into their schedule. It happens. The newcomer piece, we know we have a lot of newcomers. We have that language acquisition piece. Susan talked about the piece, the junior high, but it's also built in for the elementary piece. It's what many of those ESL resource teachers do. It's across the board. Our other English learners, they have receive services in language acquisition. We also have any students, or most, if not all, I think we're at like 97% of students who qualify for intervention receive intervention in those targeted skills for reading and math. And then the reality is if they qualify for 1, 2, 3, or more, we build it in and find a way to do it. So is it perfect? No. But the reality is I think we're really finding when we started on our really solid MTSS process, we were seeing about 1,400 kids. Now we're down to in the 700s, and it's really the kids who need it. And that reality is through all of these processes and structures, and we're getting to that piece. We've got the staff who are trained to do it. And the resources, if anything, I think we probably have too many resources and got to figure out the ones that are best to do that. But we're on the way and on that path. And honestly, and I haven't said it yet, we have a staff who want to do the best they can do every single day for the kids. I probably shouldn't say it this way, kill themselves to do that and want to be perfect. And it's a wonderful thing to see and experience. But the reality, it's hard work. It's hard work and it takes time. But hopefully that helps with some of those questions. But I'm going to jump ahead to our Spanish reading achievement results. So also, I think, as we've talked a little bit, this new assessment has also helped us get to that language acquisition piece has also become a common topic across achievement on the Spanish language side. So you can see where we started the year, really nice growth from the start of the year to this midpoint. Again, though, we're behind the state and nation. I do appreciate seeing that when we talk about that behind piece, we're getting into alignment. We like to see that, but we want to grow into this piece. Can see how we compare that kind of, standard graph. And then we do have some comparative pieces. We're hopeful next year that we'll actually start to see some norm data, that 25th percentile piece. They're hoping to have that, and that there'll be a path next year for kids to do work on this piece. We don't have that yet this year, but iReady works very hard on this piece and very receptive to the work. So then math, again, how do we compare? As I've said many times, we're still leading the way. We really outperform the state and nation consistently and have for the last, really almost from the start, especially the last 3 years. We continue to outpace the state and nation consistently across the board, whether it's on grade level, above grade level. Really wish that slide there. Let me go back. Would show up. There you go. Across the grade levels, I think, when you talk over here, you really start to see over time how strongly we outpace the nation when you talk below grade level. Really some significant differences. Not as much in the green, but you're showing the differences over here. So our kids are closer to being on grade level across the board, and we're consistently above the nation and being on grade level. And that's just we're 5 years in, we've got a good system, our structures meet the needs of kids, and continue to show that across the board.
Tom, looking at this slide,
Yeah.
like at which point do kids get intervention?
So if they're, I'm going to turn it over to Katie.
Sure thing.
She's the expert.
A starting point for us is generally looking at students who are percentile and under. Points. So we don't necessarily have cut scores. That's just our starting guide. Then we would look at their performance and their data that we have across the board. How are they doing in their classes? What do their curricular assessments look like? What do the common assessments look like? What do we know about their performance? And their teams work together through the MTSS process to identify them for intervention. And that happens in both reading and math with language considerations.
And the 3 or more grades below has been thrown in quite a bit, right? For clarity, how does that play into the intervention?
So we would also consider their iReady scores as part of that. So we would look at that 3 or more grade levels below as another data point to help us assess. That doesn't always match the percentile. So we can't always say 3 grade levels below means that they'll be under the 25th for different grade levels. It might fall around that, which is why we just use it as the starting place. And then we look at all of the data we have available to us. So we have some kids who may be above the 25th percentile receiving intervention because that was a team decision when they looked at all of the data.
And how would we approach the kids that require very early intervention, meaning, first grade, second grade, like before we get to that being 3 grades behind?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, one of the things that Tom highlighted was about 5 years ago, we started with our resource allocation and our interventionists and then slowly worked towards specializing. So we really wanted to focus on our early grades. And we took some of our interventionist positions and said, we really want you to focus in K2 or K3 so that you become great at the programs that are designed for early learners. And we are intervening as early as possible because we know when we can catch that gap at kindergarten, at first grade, and intervene at a very intense level, we can catch students up to their peers, and then they have access to that core curriculum, which is where we know they'll excel and grow their fastest. So that was one of the strategies that we took years ago to make sure that those interventionists could really specialize, become great at the programs designed for our younger learners, and catch them up to speed fast.
And Katie, I like how you described, even if they're a little bit above the 25th percentile, I like how you said they take other data points into account. Now, I don't know that that's consistent based on my experience that I've had with one of my kids where she was at the 26th percentile and they said, oh no, she doesn't qualify. And then she goes back down and then struggles. So I'd like, at a consistent basis, if those kids who just aren't there, if they can still get those supports so that way they don't fall down, if that could be done consistently.
Sure. Yeah, that's part of what we would want as the response to intervention, because if we see then a student start to struggle when something's removed, it may mean we need to replace it. It may mean that we need to adjust or find something in between or fade that intervention slowly over time instead of just a removal. So that's a great consideration.
Yeah. So just if everyone, a refresher, reminder, so that way everyone's doing exactly with how you describe it, that'd be great.
Very good. So last couple slides, just again, the EL group. You can kind of see where things are at with this group, how that compares to last year in the winter. Our schools, last year's winter, this year's winter. Again, it's about half. Saw an increase, half or a little decrease or about the same. Pretty solid. And then when we talk strategic plan, we have our inclusive learning environment. So again, the KPI here is different in that we want to ensure that we meet the needs of students who are falling outside of that expected growth piece. And we look at this idea of we want kids who are receiving intervention to gain a minimum of 4.0 percentage points by the end of the school year if they're in intervention. So we measure that this year, and this is one of those things we've talked about when we talk about reading. We've really seen some minimal growth, especially in comparison to what we've seen over the last 3 years. We're seeing a 1.6. We would hope to see at a minimum a 2.0 if the goal is 4. This year we're seeing a 1.6. So all those things we were talking about that we're projecting, trying to figure out, thinking what's going on, kind of plays out on the intervention side here with that 1.6. So those are things we're still looking at, trying to figure out, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the school year. Hopefully we'll see a nice bounce back with our reading group, and that we can get to that 4.0, but definitely an area that we're spending a lot of time on. And then with math, we're actually right where we always are. Really solid, almost meeting the end of the year goal here by the middle of the year. So pretty stark contrast between the two. And that's it. Then there are another bunch of slides that really contain those detail pieces. Again, that will go out with the board packet or the board report. And of course, I'll include everything with the, to make sure the board has the full packet, everything in the board update. Any other additional questions for now?
I don't have a question, but I kind of just wanted to direct this to the rest of the board. Thank you Tom, for including the strategic plan goals, and maybe they've always been there, but now I'm
Not
really
like that.
focused on them.
Not like
Not
that.
like that. So no, thank you. But I just kind of wanted to call out that our strategic plan goal number 1, which is focused on student growth and achievement, we're only at least mentioning the KPI here, just the KPI of 80% over 25%. So I'm hoping when we revisit our strategic plan, that we're going to take it deeper than that. That's certainly nothing that this board ever agreed to, that this is how we were going to measure student growth and achievement, by just this KPI. So I just wanted to point that out while we're talking about
This
it.
is the final year of the current strategic plan. So
Yeah, no, just putting it out there so we can get ready to think about it.
All right, we'll give Tom time to wardrobe change.
wow, thanks for staying, foundation members. All right, appreciate it. All right, I think we're moving on to superintendent leadership team reports. And that's me. Again. All right, so we'll jump right in. So communications, the Mass Communication Tool Evaluation Task Force continues to do its work and is meeting to look at the 2 demo product options. Kindergarten Info Night and registration communication plans are underway. Those are coming up, I believe, next month. And they've been working on filming additional videos for the attendance campaign and Spring Safety Week. Also, just earlier this week, I believe Monday, Dr. Bresnahan, Susan Savage, and Dr. Perdomo delivered the keynote presentation at the National Association of English Learner Program Administrators in Chicago about our multicultural program. So congratulations to them.
Real quick before you continue, do we have like a percentage or like how much our attendance has increased or stayed the same since like with our?
I don't have it at this moment, but can include it in the update.
Perfect.
Okay, so Associate Superintendent, that's me. Our 5 Essentials survey, that's a state level survey. It's part of the school report card that it started last week. It's open till March 13th. It includes students in grades 4 through 8, any instructional based staff, so teachers, certified staff, and teaching assistants who work with kids instructionally, and parents. That went out like I said last week. It's open till March 13th. Anyone listening, please, parents especially, please fill it out. I want to congratulate and recognize Bird School, Juliet Low School, and Ridge Family Center for Learning School. They've all exceeded the 20% response rate that you need from parents to get a report. So they've already met that piece. So congratulations to them. And that's a challenge to the rest of our school and parents. So please fill that out. We have our North Cook audit coming up. We are audited every 4 years, so they'll be in district on the 17th of March to review all of our audit materials, and we've been working diligently as a district and all of our departments to complete that process. I don't want to say it's routine because it's a lot of work, but we will be more than prepared for that piece on the 17th. Assessment and accountability, state testing, as we mentioned earlier, is in March and April. Our preparations this month, we had a testing coordinator meeting earlier this week, and then we'll do some staff training in the next couple of weeks to really make sure we're ready to prepare, be prepared for that. We don't test prep, but our goal is to make sure our kids are as prepared as possible so they can show what they know on the test. And then finally, we have next month, we have District PLT and our final District Institute of the year in March.
Tom,
Business, yes.
Quick question. We're talking about the surveys and assessments. When do we do, at which period or like season do we do the panorama?
Panorama actually is right now for students and staff, comes out right now, right? I think I just got it started Monday. So yeah, it's right in this
I
period.
thought it was somewhere around this time. So okay, I'm not crazy. Good.
You're right on the money.
Can you explain what that is? I'm sorry, I've heard of it, but what is the Panorama survey?
Panorama is a survey of social and emotional competencies for our students. It is taken by students in 3rd grade through 8th grade, and it's also taken by staff for our kindergarten through 8th grade students. So they are monitoring competencies of social and emotional learning, self-management, social awareness. They also are looking at sense of belonging data for our students and our staff. So there are many components that are surveys of the culture and the climate, and components that are social and emotional in nature.
It's twice a year, correct?
Twice a year.
And is the board provided with the results of this survey?
Summaries of that, like the district level data, yes.
Okay, so when can we expect to see that?
Typically, it's about 2 weeks after the survey administration period, so likely beginning of March.
Okay, so will it be part of our board packet or?
A weekly update is typically
Weekly
where
update,
we
okay.
provide
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
In the panorama, has that had different names like the past and the Renaissance, or am I thinking?
No, we've
Okay.
had Panorama, I think, since
Okay.
2017.
Okay, then there's a couple different ones.
Yes, I think what would be great, considering like different questions on the board, if we can get a list of different surveys that are coming out at different times with that just description, so just it's easier for us to follow. I think that would be wonderful.
What, when, and why?
Yes, thank you.
It's like on a document where it's
Yeah.
Sure. Moving on to business services. So transportation, we heard a few things in our pre-meeting tonight, but we also, for the upcoming school year, we're moving our transportation services for NSSCO to Richley Bus Services. And we're also considering some long-term shifts and exploring possibly moving during the current school year. The factors that go into that are capacity and also some obligations to our current provider. So more to come with that. In regard to some investments, we learned tonight that we're increasing our interest rate pretty significantly, which will result in interest earnings improving by approximately $238,000. So,
Yeah, thank you, Mosin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mosin, for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yes, well done. So we are happy to hear that. Moving on to curriculum and instruction, busy planning. It's always scary in education when you get to February and you're deeply planning for the following school year, but instruction is deeply planning for 26-27, also planning for summer school. We do have a multilingual program adult coming up in audit. Did I say adult? Audit in March and April. From our recollection, we think it's the first time our multilingual program has been audited here in the district. So
Who is auditing it?
ISBE, the state, is coming in for an audit. So
Is there, is this just something they normally do? Are we selected for audit?
usually it's a randomized type of process that happens, and you're selected for it. How, I don't know.
So it's not based on results at all?
Not that. Yeah, it's not like because of this we're selected for that. We were just notified. That often happens at the state level. You're just selected for things. So
And with the results?
yeah. At some point, Dr. Perdomo's doing much of the work with his staff and district staff to pull all the data together. We have a visit coming up, and then they'll review all the data, and we'll get some sort of report following that. And then as a reminder, we have kindergarten. I said March. I was incorrect. Kindergarten information nights in February, 23rd at Friendship, 24th at Holmes, and the 25th at Grove. Moving on to human resources, 2026-27 resource allocation planning is underway. HR is working with principal teams and departments, identifying openings, talking about staffing needs and leadership team reviews and recommendations, and working on those known openings. And we're going to hear more about that shortly. We do know we have some known openings on the leadership side, the assistant for instruction, the CSBO opening, and our principal of the Early Learning Center. And HR is also working on the North Cook audit. That's a big part of the audit is personnel. Student services and support. We have upcoming on March 5th, the Family Education Night here at the Administration Center with Katie Torres, who's a licensed, thanks for printing that out, licensed clinical social worker. Will be here at 6 p.m. on the 5th. We're preparing for Spring Safety Week. I believe that's in March. And we're planning some PLC Plus coaching with Corwin specialists for elementary and early learning lead activators. So again, that's a great example of where we're partnering with the experts as we do training with our staff.
And Mr. Ludloff, before you move on, Ms. Eddy, I can answer your question. When we looked at our absenteeism rate, our chronic absenteeism rate from last year, fall to winter break, and this year, fall to winter break, we've decreased by 1.5%.
Technology and innovation, where Skyward Q planning is occurring and doing a lot of support for specific job groups. We had a site visit from Barrington 220 where they did STEM visits at Grove and Ridge. And we're working on a staff device refresh for the summer of 2026. And staff will have the option to purchase their old laptops as we've done in the past. And my computer is ready for a refresh. So wonderful. All right. Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Very nice.
Tom, are winter conferences, parent-teacher conferences going on?
They are going on tonight. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is there anything to report on that? Like, are those required? Are they voluntary? How are they?
The conferences, the mid-winter conferences are as needed scheduled conferences, not open to all. I shouldn't say it that way. They're open to all, but they're more scheduled by teachers and contact parents as needed.
Okay, but they come in at a certain time, like a certain time frame after
Yeah.
hours?
Yes, I believe they're tonight from certain time after school till like 4:30 to 7 or 7:30, something like that.
In the invitations, that was the
Invitation, thank
it
you.
was an invitation unless there is a need.
But parents absolutely could contact teachers and schedule, which they can do anytime.
Or you could have your son saying that the teacher's going to call him.
Okay. All right. So next we have our consent agenda. We have items 6.01 through 6.05. If I could get a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved in second. Any questions? If not, if we could do a roll call vote.
Kitzinger,
Aye.
Notini,
Aye.
Chesney,
Aye.
Buckler,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Eddie, I, Johnson.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. For our action items, we have 7.01, the adoption of the board policies from Press Update 120. If I could get a motion to approve those as presented.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Moved in second. Anybody have questions about any of those? Not if we could do a vote.
Notini,
Aye.
Chesney,
Aye.
Buckler,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Eddie, I, Johnson.
Aye.
Kinzinger.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we have a couple donations. The first one is the donation to Brentwood Elementary. Somebody wants to read that once we get it pulled up.
I'll do it. Be it resolved that on the 11th day of February 2026, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the $2,500 donation to Brentwood Elementary School from an anonymous donor to clear negative meal account balances. Be it further resolved that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
You get a second?
Second.
That's very nice. Well, we didn't. If we can have a vote, please.
Chesney,
Aye.
Buckler,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Eddie, I, Johnson,
Aye.
Kitzinger,
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. I did the same for my kids because their balance was negative 400 the other day. That was, anyway.
Making sure they won't go hungry.
All right, somebody wants to read the next one for Salt Creek?
Sure. Be it resolved that on the 11th day of February 2026, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the $500 donation to Salt Creek Elementary School from Lori and David Miller to support student-free lunches. Be it further, support student school lunches. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to Lori and David Miller in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting. And that's Elk Grove Village former fire chief David Miller and his wife. And I know that's their daughter is Mrs. Safina, who is a teacher at Salt Creek as well. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Second.
Second, all right. Vote, please.
Buckler,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Eddie, I, Johnson,
Aye.
Kitzinger,
Aye.
Notini,
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, for discussion items, we have 8.01, the school year pay bus fee.
Being consistent with not changing fees for everything. We are not recommending a change. Now, making that statement does not mean that we're not going to review all the fees. We just didn't want to isolate one fee and change it. All our costs are dynamic costs. They're all inflation related. Our fees in many cases are missing or very, very low. So we need to do a comprehensive review. It's a political decision, so we'll spend some time on it and make a recommendation for all the fees. So no need to just isolate that and raise the fees just for the transportation. So keep it flat for this coming year.
Mosin, can I ask who would pay for bus service?
Well, by law, the required free transportation is for people who live mile and a half and over, and people who have to cross hazardous area. if we are providing services beyond that, it is at the complement of the board. And usually transportation cost, as you saw the presentation, can get very expensive. And in addition to the distance, special ed IEPs automatically qualified. Out of district could be distance, but if it's out of district by choice, it's not. Many school districts even don't offer that option because the infrastructure is not there. It's really like having one bus pickup in a given area, and that can get very expensive.
So do you have a sense of how many families are paying for bus service right now?
I think just a handful. I would say less than 10.
Okay, because I've actually had it come up. I've had parents ask me, they said, we have a first grader and we don't qualify for bus service, but, we can't let our kindergartner walk to school by themselves, and they were looking to pay for the bus service. And I believe the rule is there has to be a bus stop nearby. But I mean, if there wouldn't be a bus stop nearby because they're not, within they are within a mile. So I'm just trying to understand when it even comes into play.
Well, what the language normally is in that situation is not necessarily a bus stop, but the bus is going on that route. So if the bus is going on that straight, they'll make a stop provided it doesn't impair or
Okay.
I think we have like a handful of people who are using that
Okay.
service.
I think that may be the case, and I would have to revisit that. So thank you.
Okay, next would be our resource allocation overview.
I'm going to stand tonight if that's okay. It's time to, I'm trying to show off actually.
As well.
Yeah, there you go. Well, good evening. I'm very excited to have some time in front of the board to have our annual resource allocation presentation. I've noticed that this presentation has evolved over the last few years, which is I've really enjoyed, to try to just build understanding for the greater community, the board. So I changed it up again based on what I think was helpful for the board. But if something's not helpful, please let me know. But let's start with the end in mind so no one has to sit on the edge of their seat. We are not recommending any additional allocations for next year. So 0. Mosin? 0. And I just want to start with that because these are really important decisions and they're complex decisions, but let's just start with that. But I will walk through it. And so this was my thought process this year. I'm breaking staffing changes into really 3 groups. Staffing drivers. People who get excited about this that are in HR. We talk fast and we go in and out of all 3 of these, and sometimes it's confusing. So let's talk about required. I'm calling it required. If we are going to need teachers. So school code, there's enrollment, 30 students move in, we're required to hire a teacher. If there are an increase in IEPs, we're required to provide minutes. So this happens throughout the year, as you know, and we show these on the consent agenda. Typically, there's an increase to the budget when that happens. If a student moves in and they need a one-to-one nurse, we can either contract that out or we may add a position as an example. The next huge piece about this one, I think, is the relationship to that with enrollment. So typically you would think as enrollment goes up, we would have to add staff, of course. And as enrollment would go down, we would reduce staff. Typically, but not always in public school districts, teachers become tenure. And then so you work through attrition. When teachers retire or resign, then you try to balance the overall number that way. That's sometimes easier said than done. But you can see our enrollment is actually starting to level out a little bit over the last couple of years and even go up a little bit. I included in yellow the average class size, which I think is interesting compared to the total number. And then on this year, I put the class range as well. So we have a class as low as 9 students in the class and a class as high as 26. And I know this is a review for the board, but I think collectively it's helpful. So the last point I want to make about this is sometimes the needs of 5,800 students might be different than the needs of 6,800 students. Actually, Mr. Luloff just articulated that. It was really a happy accident that those presentations kind of went together. The middle organization, this is structural stuff. Sometimes salary adjustments. If someone, an administrator has been in the role for 20 years, sometimes we need to make an adjustment. Position titles, every now and again, they get a little out of sort, and it's like, okay, I think these are all coordinators. We need to clearly communicate to our community, like who's who. Org chart, we've had, like when we first started our communication department, it fell under a different department. And then as most districts have now, that falls out of the superintendent's department. This is typically a neutral cost. It's really just kind of cleaning up the house to make it updated. But the other piece I think only people who get excited about this stuff really see, and most people might get confused about is, hey, I saw school A lost an AP, but we added, a coordinator over here. That's neutral. So if we had, like at Grove, we had 3 APs, we watched enrollments, we watched needs, we watched other support. Through attrition, we did not replace that AP because at the same time, we needed to round out our coordinator team to do that instructional work that we just discussed. So yes, the title changed, and for parts of the community, it might look like a plus or minus, but when we look at the district, that's a neutral cost. Now, these are not seen in our board actions. Requireds are through the consent agenda. The next category is through resource allocation, which we will not have a vote next month, because remember, 0. But these are still communicated to the board, typically through the superintendent and the board president, vice president, through meetings as changes are needed. But there's no official action that's needed for that.
So when we talk about resource allocation being 0, is there? So you mentioned shifts around and depending on what's needed. What if there is you discover, we don't need something?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I have 5 slides about that. I'm going to give you an example. I did not ask him to ask that. You're like 5 slides too early. Great question. The last one is strategic. That's annual strategic plan. So when we start a new strategic plan, it's what do we need additional that we don't have strategically to live out the strategic plan. And we're starting a new strategic plan. If we decide we need to start a future Olympians figure skating program, we are going to need to hire coaches, but don't forget, we're going to have to build an ice rink.
Hey, we've got one. It's being built.
There you go. Strategic. And that's why we're not adding, that's expensive. But so that's why it's 0. We are not at that stage in a strategic plan to say, let's invest positions in that. But this is annual. Typically, that is an increase, of course. Instructional coaching, we saw interventionists, we saw ESL resource. There are a lot of examples of that. I will give a historical view of that in a moment. This is the slide that correlates with this. This is the district over the last 10 years. And these are the additional allocations that we've added to go with strategic plan work. A lot of different board members were part of those action items. Now, I'm excited about the updates I made to this slide. If you look in the past few years, this might look familiar to you because I've shown a slide similar to this the last few years. But the last few years, I showed what the board approved. But we didn't always fill all of those. And so I had this light bulb moment where I'm like, oh no, let's talk as real as we can get with these numbers. So if you do reference back one and you see it's a little bit different, there's a reason behind that, and feel free to ask away. But you can see 2015, 16 to 17 to 18, then we didn't add any, then there was COVID. And then look at the strategic plan cycle. You can just kind of see the strategic plan cycle living and breathing. Are you curious what all of those positions are? Because when you see it like this, it's like, I don't remember that. I have a slide for that. It's overwhelming. So let's just go line by line. 15, 16, 15 additional FTE. We needed to have more psychologists, social workers, speech language pathologists. We added counselors, LBS coaches, contingency. Back in time, we would also get in like a buffer. We don't do that anymore. I think it muddies the FTE count. If we would need something else, we'd just come to the board and talk specifically about what we needed. That's at like cushion. Like if you need an extra 3, you don't have to come in back to the board. I'd rather come back to the board and show you kind of the plus minus. LBS, junior high interventionist. I think that was on one of Tom's slides. This is where we started adding that piece. 17, 18, you can see the same piece. Psychologists and social workers. When I was a principal at Claremont for almost 10 years, we shared both of those positions with neighboring schools. And again, enrollment may have been high then, but the needs may have been different. So that's a good example of how the numbers sometimes correlate, but it's not always painting the whole picture. Coaching started happening, developmental K. We tried out a developmental K program in the district. ELC was starting to grow more, little buffer right there. Nice and quiet for 3 years. And then you can see junior high math, elementary interventionists. That was a big part of that strategic plan to go after that goal of student achievement and growth. Then this year, newcomers. Again, the enrollment may have gone down, but the needs were different. We did not have the staffing for the change in enrollment need. Junior high math, advanced math is now joining the team. We needed more social studies and science. Some of this was rounding out that junior high schedule so that students would have the same experience or close to it, no matter which junior high they attended in 59, which is not always easy when you have a small, medium, and large size set of middle schools, at least from a staffing efficiency standpoint. Junior high electives, again, that's scheduling. Dual language Polish, started growing that. I forgot about these two. So I'm glad I made this slide. The requirements for PE changed. The amount of PE that we were expected to provide. And so we had to hire 5 or add 5 FTEs, and then some of them split between our smaller elementaries. That's why your elementary might have 1.5. I will tell you, hiring a 0.5, a split position for 2 buildings is hard. And then often they're looking for a full-time position somewhere. Also, when I was at Claremont, we had one individual who taught both art and music. That was across the elementaries. Mine was incredible, and she retired. And it was really hard trying to convince an art major that they would do a great winter musical, and vice versa. So again, we were looking at scheduling, rounding things out, and we made that commitment. Interventionists again, like Dr. Ossel said, we also then shifted, like, are they interventionists? Are they lit? Are we going to go primary? You've seen in a few years ago, I was trying to articulate what Mr. Ludloff said about every school gets an interventionist. And then it was, well, where are they needed? So when we did fill those positions, mostly with internal staff, we made it very clear year to year you could be at a different building because we are going to staff by student need, not just one building. Newcomers, ESL resource, again, junior high electives, TA, teaching assistants. This is where we started adding more teaching assistants to our schools because of our all hands on deck approach, internal subbing, helping bridge support while special education work is unfolding. We added some more relief custodians as cleaning needs changed post-COVID. 24-25, same kind of situation. Now we added the new teacher mentoring position, which was split by 2 certified staff members, because we needed to rethink how we were going to support and retain our staff when we were hiring so many new people. Because most of these may have been filled internally, but then that opened up spots. Director of School Safety and Security. You remember we shared that position with another district. And then with the expansion of the ELC, or pre-K programming, that's when we rounded out the 0.6 early childhood coordinator position to a full-time position. That's why it's 0.4. So now that's a full-time position. The following year, I predicted it. We hired someone that met our needs. We needed that full-time, and that worked out. So you can see, I hope that gives you a little bit more detail. I did my best to look back into all the pages to see. I'm confident this is 95% accurate, but it paints the picture for tonight's discussion. Now, I don't want to overlook the note on the bottom. This does not include school resource officers. That's an intergovernmental agreement. We split salaries. Okay, that's a little different. It doesn't count interim roles. That's a contract that says for this year, we want half-time, here's the deal. Consultants, contracted services like varsity tutors, it doesn't include that. And here's why. Because they don't get tenure. We're not providing health insurance. It is a really good solution to fill a staffing gap that the board has utilized when we're in between phases of a strategic plan. It's really smart. Varsity tutors is going really well. Okay, we can expand. When it's not going well, we can live out the life of that contractor and make a shift, and it's not this long-term commitment. For a certified staff member, you can get tenure now in 3 school years. 2, if you get really high performance ratings during your eval. So 2 school years goes by really fast, and we are still a destination and hire really strong people. But once they're tenure, we have to find a spot for them. We can't just say, okay, we're shifting into another phase of our plan.
Ross, does this resource allocation plan include district level administrators?
Yes. That isn't here.
So, like, who would that be? I don't see
There really are not many over this period of time. Just before this, one superintendent back, that was when we need to add assistant principals as LEAs. We are going to start a communication department. We are going to focus on SEL, and we heard about, our director's work tonight from the foundation. That was a big part of the strategic plan before this one with the superintendent prior to Dr.
But I don't
Breshnahan.
see those positions.
Because I didn't go before 2015.
Oh,
So it would have been the
okay.
start of the superintendent, Dr. Fessler.
Mhm.
But they fall in this category. You don't see them here because I only did the last 10 years for accuracy.
Understood. Thank you.
But I'm glad you asked because I don't want that to get missed. But in the last 10 years, the Director of School and Safety, that's non-negotiated IMRF. That's like an administrative role. So there are some in here. The Coordinator of Early Learning, 0.4, that's one. But no, this is mostly certified staff. Which is good because we were seeing how that was working in the strategic plan, and now we know we have to go even further with our new plan. So, just want to reiterate, 0, 0, 0 across the board. We're not adding any 0. Okay, I'm not saying 0 forever. I'm just saying for next year. We'll see what the next strategic plan calls for. But again, I hope it's helpful just to kind of think about it in these 3 categories. Sometimes they kind of move in between different categories. For example, when we didn't have a communications department, that would have fallen in the green strategic plan. But then when we moved that from being under one department to the superintendents, that's more of a reorg. So that's what we just covered. But if I could have just a few more minutes, Mr. Chesney had a great question, teed me up. I want to give you some more detail about the required category because we will likely be adding positions and salaries because of this category. This visual, we put it, I believe the board appreciated this one. So we have this in the board weekly. I have formulas working to update this. It's live. If one looks funny, please let me know because it could be a broken formula. Now, just a quick update. We won't deep dive this because I know you understand it. Next year, so this is projecting next year, and there is still snow on the ground. As we know, it's kind of hard to talk about next year this year. But I rolled up every grade. So 5th grade is removed because they're going to middle school. I roll everybody up. And so in this example, you'll see kindergarten is exactly the same as 1st grade, just as an idea, but we'll see what happens. If it were to stay like this, and it won't, but it'll be pretty close, we will have 20 singletons for monolingual classrooms, 208 elementary classrooms, K-5, and 20 of them are going to be singletons. And we remember what a singleton is. It means it's the only class of that type at a grade level. There are going to be 10 for dual language. Now see Brentwood, see that class size of 12 way in the upper right-hand corner? I'm gonna come back to that in a little bit. Class range is 9 to 22, so a little bit better than this year. Again, these numbers are going to change, but that's something we do want to watch, because one thing I like about how this has evolved is, you can look across a school like Brentwood. You go, okay, look, 3 classes in kindergarten, 3 in first. Okay, what's going on with 5th grade? You might remember we are rolling that program out of that building and placing it somewhere else. This is also called a 3-round. Because there are 3 classes per grade for the monolingual program. When a family moves into town with triplets, awesome. We got a class for each of them. And it balances out that class size nice and easy. If the family with the triplets moves into Bird and their dual language 2nd grade, that's a little trickier. So we're watching that. But this is the part I don't think I've articulated in the past. I think it's time. So whether you call it grade level rounds or numbers of sections, if you look at school A on the top, that's this year, there are 3 classes or sections per grade level all the way through K-5. Nice and easy. Most places are like this. Most places aren't having to hire until someone retires. Those teachers get to stay in those grade levels for many years. They get close with their team, all that good stuff. When I roll that down to next year, see 26, 27, those zeros are I don't know how many kindergartners, I know that none of them have to change grade levels. Because the 3 sections of kindergarten are going to go to 3 sections of first, so everybody's good. School B this year, you can see that they have 1 mono and 2 dual for kindergarten, same with first, but at 2nd grade they have 2 monos and 3 duals. Then 1 and 2, then 2 and 2, then 2 and 2. I wouldn't really call that 2nd grade a bubble. A bubble is when it's a 3-round, but there's 1 grade that has that 1/4 section, and it kind of it works its way through. This is a little bit more than a bubble, because you have a 1-2, a 1-2, a 2-3, a 1-2, a 2-2, and a 2-2. So let's roll that up into next year. 1st grade, they're good. It's the same. Look at 2nd grade. That's going to be a challenge we have to tackle. Look at 3rd grade, 4th grade, and so on. In 2nd grade, there are 2 teachers at that grade level that do not have classes at that grade level next year because of this. Same with 4th grade. What do we do? Well, I'll give you some typical scenarios of what districts do. What we have done, what we have not really done. Let's say that teacher in 2nd grade with the class of 10, that teacher, let's call that teacher A. We're going to tell that teacher involuntary transfer. You're going to stay at your school, but you're going to go to 3rd grade. We'll tell the dual language teacher with 18 students at 2nd grade, involuntary transfer. You're going to go to that in 3rd grade. Now, that word is not too friendly, involuntary transfer. Our staff's incredible. They know what's coming. Everybody knows what, you can see it. Our leaders are incredible. These conversations are starting all the time. They're done compassionately. People get it. Can I stay in this building? I love this building. I cannot remember the last time we had to actually contractually involuntary transfer someone. But that is because our kids need a teacher. And I can't have a teacher in 2nd grade without a class and then hire a teacher for the next grade. Now that 4th grade of 19, they can be moved to that next grade. In this scenario, everybody could stay at their school. Okay, but this is going to happen again the year after that. This is going to happen again the year after that. So if I had my fourth institute getting professional learning on the second grade curriculum, I'm going to third grade next year. That has an impact system-wide. Let me give you another scenario. We haven't really done this. I'm not recommending this. I'm just building our understanding because this is what we do. Same scenario. Teacher B goes, okay, teacher C goes, but look at that third grade. There's a class of 12 and a class of 10. Most places would say it is very responsible for that to be a class of 22, which, by the way, would put that grade in compliance with the state for dual language or bilingual programming. The bilingual classes should be 90% the enrollment size of the mono. So when you have 12 and 10, and then 16, 16, 18, we're out of compliance. Now, the good news is those are all just super small classes. It's not like there's 40 kids in the bilingual class and 20 kids, but still. So if you combine that, now teacher A, where is teacher A going to go? Well, I have a retirement at school C. That is the reorg bucket. And then that teacher can go there to fill that, and we're not adding an additional FTE that gets tenure in 3 years and all that comes with it. Now, that is really hard for that teacher. Now they have to go to a different grade level and they have to go to a different school. Now, we've had to do this, and I will tell you, 2 months into that school year, it's a real hard conversation they have in the spring, but our schools are so welcoming that people, they make it work. But this absolutely impacts retention. This absolutely impacts recruitment.
Ross, isn't this just the reality in any school district? Like that there's going to be these, shifts in populations?
Great question. I think it's much more in our area a reality of the student needs are changing, but not the rounds like this. Most are going to be like school A. And so if my son, who's graduating college in May, was going to be a teacher, and he's offered a job at third grade D54, or third grade, which is like school A, or B, I want him to get 3 or 4 years under his belt to learn his craft for kids and not have to move, every year. So we've also tried to make a commitment to our new hires. We're not going to move our new hires. Let's keep it, and especially when this happens in a singleton. Because then I'm a new person in a singleton for 1 year. So we're trying to say, we got to look to some of our veteran staff, and they've stepped up. But tonight isn't about recommendations. Tonight isn't to cause alarm. Tonight is just building our capacity because it's important.
Well, Ross, wouldn't typically the building principal send out a survey to the staff, what's your grade level preference, and then give feedback and start there that way to see if someone voluntarily wants to move within the building? Absolutely, we start there. But even as a leadership, we want our professional development to last. We don't want this much change in our system. And most people, every now and again, someone's like, oh, so-and-so's retiring in kindergarten. I've always wanted to teach kindergarten. Well, first we have to check licensure. But yeah, we'll say, is anyone interested? Sometimes people are just ready for something different. We always start there. Just like when we have an opening, we always look to see if we can fill it internally first. If a student moves in and requires a one-on-one teaching assistant, this happens often. We may have a student who just moved out of the district who had a one teaching assistant. And so then we give them other support tasks, and then we go, okay, we kind of balance that out. So I'm glad you asked the process piece, Mr. Buckler, but I'll tell you, people see this coming. This is tricky. This is how many schools this is going to happen to just next year. Salt Creek, Ripley, Bird, Juliet Lode, John Jay, and Brentwood. Now, I said I'd come back to that class size 12 in the upper right-hand corner. We're rolling that out of that school. So I have to say next year. So for 27-28, that fifth grade will go to Frost. Frost already has mobiles, and they're picking up an extra class this year, Brentwood's fourth grade, and it's going to be tight. So not next year, but the year after, we're going to have to think of a facility situation
for that at Frost. And it's, again, just giving you the information to forecast out some of these things. These aren't tomorrow's problems, but things we're going into a new strategic plan we need to be thinking about.
I think with the strategic plan plus the facilities plan and the boundary study and enrollment study, I think all of that. But I understand that Frost is now kind of at its limit.
Yeah.
But look what, like slowly over time, moving that programming from into that one school. Look how consistent that cluster is going to be.
Yes.
So I think it's something to keep in mind how we do that at the other clusters.
Yes, absolutely. And then look at what will happen from what we were just talking about. Brentwood will then be a 3-round, and Frost will be a 2+2, 2+2. So then we have that consistency there. So that it's not an allocation issue because that teacher will move there. But just like you said, it's how do we look a few chapters ahead to some of these predictable patterns to try to just get ahead of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're not in this situation with another school where they're bursting at the seams.
Yep. And of course, there are those like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how many kindergartners we got at said school this year, or we've always gotten them. Where did they go this year? You know, that's the typical day-to-day school stuff. But I did want to I hope this helped in terms of kind of categorizing this. And again, we're not going to add any next year. I'm excited as we start our strategic plan work to build this capacity and support the needs ahead. Any other additional questions? And you'll have access to this if they come, a few days from now. Just send them my way.
Yes, I just have I guess it's sort of a question or an observation. So we are not looking to add any additional FTE. I understand that. We just had a presentation on, our benchmark data and saying that we need to work on, there's lots of things we're working on, we need to work on. Is there any reorganization we're considering to address those things we're working on?
Well, absolutely. That's where we can, in that middle bucket, we do, as you recall, we're in first year 1 of a new contract, and there's a retirement benefit in there. So we have teachers retiring. So we can still cost neutral, I should say FTE neutral. I mean, sometimes salaries, but we can look at that and say, okay, we could take a class of a 12 and an 11 and do this and then go, there's an interventionist. So this doesn't have to mean a reduction, but it could be, to your point, where else is the need? So that is the shared work between all of the departments in the buildings. Right now, I go and we're making sure everybody is connecting on what their needs are in terms of human resources. And then that's that next level piece.
Okay, but that's
Absolutely.
nothing the board votes on. We only would vote on if you were proposing an additional staff.
Yes. And in this phase of the strategic plan, it would be premature to do that. We may not need that with the new strategic plan. We might say because of other financial goals within the strategic plan, we're going to convert positions through attrition when people retire. We've already had just over 50 certified staff members submit their retirement notice for either this year or next year or the year after that. So there are opportunities to capture and reorg at a FTE neutral. But there are some complications with that we can talk about and communication timelines. And as Mr. Buchler said, sometimes people are like, I'm excited for that. Great. Let's see what we have. Great. Thank you so much.
Just
Yes.
real quick, I just want to make sure that as we are moving forward with reallocating and all that we're not just throwing people at the problem, because I know, especially with behaviors, when you have more and more people hired or moved around, that does not help the situation. So like when you're having these interventionists and these teachers moving to intervention, that they're trained appropriately for, the position that they're moving into.
Sure.
And that it's just not here you could have another adult because of the student or.
Oh, absolutely. That is not our practice. First of all, you have to have the proper licensure. We go through a screening process, and then
Right.
I know you know that, but for all the viewers at home, because sometimes people do like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to teach, junior high science, and they're not licensed.
Well, right.
And so we have to,
and I could be licensed in
Yeah.
science and junior high, and I would be the worst teacher
That's
ever.
right.
So
so
I think that's like the big thing, is making sure that we're not just throwing.
you are absolutely aligned with how we look at those openings. When someone does raise their hand and say, Ross is retiring, I'd love that job, we start connections with the principals, the two schools. Sometimes it's the interview process. Sometimes there's so much interest for certain jobs that we just welcome everybody to apply, because it's not seniority, it's based on who's best for that position. But we want to support our staff too. It's sometimes when you dust the cobwebs off, it's invigorating, and you're ready for that next stage of your career. So we really do try to balance that out, but we're aligned. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ross. Next item would be reports of the board committee. So if anybody has a report for their committee or an update, we can start with Ms. Eddy. Good. All right, Ms. Notini.
We just had a finance committee meeting today, and Mohsen, can we just have one every month? I just think we're never going to get to that, discuss the annual audit. So if we could propose one for next month as well, just to keep going with everything. I think they've been very helpful.
And I've identified the topics for the future meeting.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we had there was at least one topic we didn't get to today, which is totally fine, but I'll just keep moving that one along, discussing the annual audit for sure. We'll probably have a few others.
Mm-hmm.
I have no other updates though.
Okay. Zach?
Sure. We saw a great presentation tonight from the D59 Foundation. We met over Zoom this month and discussed their upcoming scholarships and teacher grants. I just want to take a moment to say thank you again to the D59 Foundation, all the work they do, the fact that they've come back, and the way they've chosen to give back to the community is through all of our kids. That's incredible. So thank you to them. And just in terms of my adopted schools, lots more fun this month. I had the pleasure of reading to Mrs. Nowak's adorable preschoolers at Ridge. And at Forest View, I got to read to Mr. Lavati's very smart fourth grader. So as always, thank you to the teachers for having me. And I look forward to more fun things in the coming months.
Ms. Kitzinger? Mr. Buckler?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm really excited. And I know the board is excited to be working with Dr. Brett Galini as our next superintendent. Really appreciate the process that we all went through with BWP and Associates. It was a great collaborative effort. I really enjoyed working with all of you to identify our next leader, and the community support, like TR talked about, that profile that was created that really helped guide us. So, I know we've had some conversations with Dr. Galini individually, and we're just really excited about the impact that he's going to have on our school district and our kids.
Mr. Chesney?
Yes, I have some updates from the NSSEO. We had a meeting this month, which was a pretty long one for NSSEO, considering there wasn't one in January. So I'm cutting it down significantly to just the important highlights. First, there will be after going through the audit. There is an NSCO has an unreserved fund balance of $377,182.52. Basically, this is money that goes back to districts depending on participation. So we will be getting $30,538.66 back.
Sorry to interrupt at this time. Is there a way that the NSSEO can keep that, and can we agree to, if there's a need to keep it in there?
Completely agree with that comment. The consensus from different districts was to not, until there is a good plan for addressing different things, and then have specific destination for funds, which then will bring additional conversation on what to do. But at this point, there was a preference to not have it done, and I believe that there was actually a longer conversation about it about a year ago or so. Yep. But yes, this would have been this
like a lot of money, all things considered, and based on the needs that NSSEO probably has.
Some schools are a lot more. Like there's, I think, one of the bigger participants are getting 200 plus more back. So, I mean, for us, we're one of the smaller participants, which is I mean, I still keep saying it's surprising, but we're only getting 30 back. One of the smaller end. And that's partially because the enrollment is up, so they got more funds coming in. Second, just a quick bit, DECO funds, they were hoping to get $150,000 for some construction, and great, they're getting 500, so that also is going to be beneficial for the member districts. A big update, and I think I'll end with that one. The S fund, which let me just get back to my cheat sheet. It's basically Senate Bill 3606, where the CUBs will be able to get a little bit of money back for the special education. I believe we will be getting, and now getting back to another cheat sheet. It goes in quarterly refunds, and the financial estimates of what we're going to be getting would be like $44,000, 400 first reimbursement, first quarter, and then 58,627 second reimbursement, second quarter. But but I believe the state is still trying to figure out how they're going to handle the targets for tuitions. The targets for how nursing is being handled. So, having a nurse to 1-to-1, 2-to-1, and nurse to students. Because there are cases of having 2 nurses to 1 student. But the team at NSSEO as well as other co-ops are working very closely to with the state to figure all of it out. And yeah, that'll be the end of my update. Just a little bit of exciting and bigger news.
Great. Thanks, Lucas. All right. If nobody has anything else, I need a motion to go into a closed session for items A through G listed on the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moves in second. We have a roll call vote.
Zach.
Aye.
Eddie. I. Johnson.
Aye.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
Booker.
Aye.
All right. Closed session, and then we'll just reconvene to adjourn.